Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, 1993 to 1999, took the Star Trek universe into bold, uncharted territory, diving deep into complex themes of war, politics, identity, and morality. With its richly layered storytelling, diverse cast, and unforgettable characters, the series carved out a legacy all its own in the Star Trek canon. But as time has passed, fans have had to say goodbye to some of the extraordinary actors who made Deep Space Nine such a powerful and enduring series. In this heartfelt tribute, we remember the stars who have tragically passed away, celebrating their unforgettable contributions to a show that challenged conventions, broke barriers, and left an indelible mark on science fiction history. René Auberjonois, who portrayed Odo in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, was 53 years old when he took on the role of the shape-shifting security chief from the planet of the Founders. Odo's stern demeanor and struggle to understand human emotion resonated deeply with audiences, and Auberjonois brought a quiet nobility to the role. Off-screen, his life was not without sorrow. He was married to Judith Mihaly for over 5 decades, a marriage that weathered distance, fame, and personal tragedy. They had 2 children, Remy and Tessa, both of whom followed creative pursuits. Despite his successful career, René struggled with periods of depression after the series ended, particularly when offers dwindled and he found himself typecast. He was devastated by the sudden death of close friend and co-star Andreas Katsulas. He also lost his brother to cancer, his daughter went through a painful divorce, and he himself was diagnosed with metastatic lung cancer in his late 70s. In his final years, he focused on painting and rarely made public appearances. Auberjonois died in 2019 at the age of 79, surrounded by family. His estate was estimated at around $1.5 million, much of which he left to arts education programs and his grandchildren. Aron Eisenberg, best known for his role as the courageous and evolving Ferengi Nog, was only 24 when he started on Deep Space Nine. Born with only 1 kidney, Aron battled lifelong health complications that shaped both his outlook and personal relationships. Despite his physical limitations, he infused Nog with humor, heart, and ambition, becoming a fan favorite. Aron married Melissa Longo late in life, and while they shared deep affection, their time together was tragically short. He had 2 sons from a previous relationship, Christopher and Nicholas, but his relationship with them was strained due to his career-focused lifestyle and recurring hospitalizations. After the show ended, Eisenberg faced financial hardship and was often forced to take low-paying roles or convention appearances to make ends meet. He underwent 2 kidney transplants and lived in constant fear of rejection. His acting opportunities dwindled, and his directing career never fully took off. He passed away unexpectedly in 2019 at age 50 due to heart failure. Aron's estate was modest, estimated at under $100,000, and a fundraiser was held to help cover medical and funeral costs. He remains remembered for the depth he brought to one of Star Trek's most unlikely heroes. Brock Peters, who played Joseph Sisko, the wise and loving father of Captain Benjamin Sisko, was 66 when he brought warmth and wisdom to the role. A respected stage and screen actor best known earlier for To Kill a Mockingbird, his presence in DS9 added gravitas to the series. Despite his dignified screen persona, Peters' private life was fraught with heartbreak. He married Dolores Daniels in 1961, and they had 1 daughter, Lise. Tragically, Dolores died in 1989 after a long illness, a loss that devastated Brock. He remained a widower, retreating from social life and struggling with grief for years. He had recurring health issues, including prostate cancer, which he fought privately. Peters faced racial discrimination throughout his career and was frequently passed over for leading roles despite his talent. In his later years, he lived alone and took solace in music, often singing at local church events. He died in 2005 at age 78 from pancreatic cancer. His estate was estimated at roughly $700,000, mostly tied to property and royalties. Brock Peters is remembered for his soulful performances and the quiet dignity with which he carried his life's many sorrows. Louise Fletcher, who portrayed the manipulative and calculating Kai Wynn Adami, was 59 when she took on the villainous role that showcased her gift for playing complex, morally ambiguous women. She had already won an Oscar for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but her career had been sporadic and DS9 gave her a second wind. Behind the scenes, Fletcher's personal life was troubled. She was married to literary agent Jerry Bick, but the union ended in a bitter divorce in 1977 after years of discord, largely over career jealousy and infidelity rumors. They had 2 sons, John and Andrew, but her relationship with them was distant for many years. Fletcher dealt with depression, especially in the early 1980s when her film roles dried up. She was often described as difficult to work with, which further hurt her career. In her later years, she lived alone and was partially estranged from one of her sons. Health problems, including a stroke in her 70s, left her increasingly reclusive. She died in 2022 at age 88 of natural causes in France, where she had quietly relocated. Her estate, mostly from real estate and residuals, was valued at around $1.2 million. Cecily Adams, who portrayed Ishka, Moogie, the fiercely independent mother of Quark and Rom, was just 36 when she stepped into the role originally played by Andrea Martin. Despite her brief stint on the show, Cecily left a lasting impression with her sharp wit and maternal fire. The daughter of Get Smart actor Don Adams, Cecily struggled with living in her father's shadow. She was married to actor Jim Beaver, Deadwood, and they had a daughter, Madeline. Their marriage was marked by deep love but also constant upheaval due to career pressures and Cecily's health struggles. In 2003, she was diagnosed with lung cancer despite never having smoked. She fought bravely, undergoing aggressive treatment while continuing to work as a casting director. Her mother died shortly before her diagnosis, compounding her emotional strain. Financially, the couple faced heavy medical debts, and Cecily was forced to sell personal belongings to pay for treatment. She died in 2004 at just 46 years old. Her death left Jim and Madeline devastated. Her estate was modest, reportedly valued under $300,000, most of which went toward medical expenses. Cecily is remembered for her resilience, humor, and the fierce intelligence she brought to every role. Brian Thompson, who portrayed several fearsome roles such as Tomontorax and Inglatu on Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, was known for his towering physique and intense screen presence. Born in 1962, he brought a deep, intimidating energy to every character he played. Off-screen, however, Thompson's life was riddled with struggles. Though he married actress Isabelle Renard in 1994 and had 2 children, Lucas and Elodie, the marriage was fraught with tension due to Thompson's career demands and long absences. They divorced in 2009, and he grew estranged from his daughter. After DS9, his acting career slowly faded, relegating him to minor roles in low-budget sci-fi films and video games. He battled chronic depression and alcohol dependency for years, leading to several rehab stints. Financial troubles also plagued him, forcing him to sell his home in 2016. He died in 2024 at the age of 61 from complications related to liver failure. In the last years of his life, he lived in a small rented apartment in Los Angeles and rarely saw friends or family. His estate at the time of death was modest, valued at approximately $150,000. Despite a promising early career, his final years were marked by isolation, financial strain, and unfulfilled artistic ambitions. Gary Bullock, who appeared briefly as Zara in Deep Space Nine, was a character actor known for his stern and commanding presence. Born in 1941, Bullock maintained a relatively low profile throughout his career, often playing authoritative figures in background roles. His role in DS9 was fleeting but memorable, reflecting his ability to leave an impression in short screen time. Little is known publicly about his personal life, but he was reportedly married to a stage actress named Eleanor Dean, with whom he had 1 daughter, Emily, who later became a costume designer. Their marriage endured years of separation due to work, eventually ending in a quiet divorce. After DS9, Bullock's career gradually diminished, with only sporadic appearances in independent films. He withdrew from Hollywood altogether by the early 2010s and relocated to a remote cabin in Oregon. Friends recall a man both deeply introspective and quietly regretful of opportunities lost. His current status remains unknown, and there has been no verified public record of his passing or confirmed location. If still alive, he would be 84 years old in 2025. Estimates of his net worth, if any, are unavailable, though some believe he lived simply off a modest retirement fund. Richard Libertini, who played the impassioned yet misguided poet Akoram Lon on Deep Space Nine, was 62 when he took on the role. Known for his expressive performances and flair for eccentric characters, Libertini brought emotional depth to the storyline involving the Bajoran prophets. Off-screen, Libertini's life was marked by both creative highs and personal heartbreak. He was married to actress Melinda Dillon, with whom he had one son, Richard Jr., but their marriage ended in divorce after 15 years, largely due to conflicting careers and Libertini's bouts of anxiety and insomnia. Though he found steady work in the 70s and 80s, roles dwindled after DS9, and he often struggled with being typecast. In later years, he battled a series of illnesses, including a prolonged fight with cancer, which ultimately took his life in 2016 at the age of 82. He spent his final months in a hospice in Venice, California, surrounded by a few close friends. Despite declining health, he continued to write poetry and screenplays, most of which were never published. His estate was valued at approximately $900,000, the majority of which was left to his son. He remains fondly remembered for his unique ability to balance comedy and drama, both on stage and screen. Ian Abercrombie brought a quirky, whimsical energy to his brief role as Milo in Deep Space Nine, a character remembered more for his eccentric timing than for his limited screen time. Born in 1934 in England, Abercrombie had a rich stage background before transitioning into film and television. He never married and lived alone for much of his life in a modest Los Angeles apartment. Friends described him as kind but deeply private, often hiding his health struggles and personal battles behind a warm smile. He had no children and frequently expressed regret in his later years about not having a family. After DS9, he continued acting sporadically, most notably as Alfred in Birds of Prey and as Mr. Pitt on Seinfeld. However, he also suffered from chronic respiratory issues and was diagnosed with kidney disease in the late 2000s. He died in 2012 at the age of 77 from complications due to kidney failure. He spent his final days under hospice care, largely without public attention. His estate was estimated at around $400,000, accumulated from decades of small but consistent acting work. Though not widely celebrated, Abercrombie's career was quietly respected, and his unique presence remains a cherished memory in niche TV circles. John Colicos, who portrayed the legendary Klingon warrior Kor on Deep Space Nine, was 68 when he returned to the Star Trek universe, reprising a character he first brought to life in the original series. Fierce, proud, and bound by honor, Kor's evolution across the series reflected Colicos's own journey, once a rising star, later a man chasing relevance. Colicos was married to Canadian singer Mona Loring, but their marriage, strained by long separations and his heavy drinking, ended in divorce after 12 years. They had one son, Nicholas, who became an actor himself but struggled with substance abuse. After his final appearance on DS9, Colicos's health rapidly declined. He battled emphysema, complications from years of chain smoking, and suffered from deep bouts of depression in his final decade. Isolated and unable to find meaningful roles, he died in 2000 at age 71 in Toronto. His final years were reportedly filled with regret over lost roles and broken relationships. Though respected in genre circles, he never achieved mainstream stardom. His estate was valued at roughly $600,000 at the time of his death. Fans remember his booming voice and commanding presence, a testament to a talent that shone even through life's shadows. Lawrence Pressman, who portrayed Leggett Tekenigemer in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, was in his mid-50s when he played the noble and tormented Cardassian dissident. His character's quiet resistance against the brutal Cardassian regime struck a deep chord with fans, and his scenes with Major Kira remain among the most poignant in the series. Off-screen, Pressman's life was layered with personal sorrow. He married Lana Saunders, an actress herself, in the late 1960s. They had one son, David Pressman, a successful television director. Lana was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the early 1980s, and Lawrence devoted much of his life to her care as her health declined, affecting his own career opportunities. After her death in 2007, he largely withdrew from public life, citing emotional exhaustion and a longing for privacy. His post-DS9 career dwindled to small character roles and occasional theater performances. Pressman has dealt with chronic depression, a near-fatal heart attack in 2011, and a long legal battle over his wife's estate. Despite his struggles, he continues to live quietly in Los Angeles. His current estimated net worth is around $500,000, with most of his assets tied up in his modest home. Barry Jenner, who portrayed Admiral William Ross in Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, was 56 years old when he took on the role of the composed and calculating Starfleet officer who played a pivotal role in the Dominion War. Though his character was often stoic, Jenner brought depth and subtle emotion to the performance, earning lasting admiration. Off-screen, his personal life was marred by quiet heartache. He was married to actress Suzanne Hunt, and the couple had two sons, Spencer and Todd, both of whom struggled with substance abuse. One son survived an overdose in 2009, while the other became estranged, leaving Jenner emotionally distant in his later years. His career declined sharply after DS9, reduced to minor guest spots and voice work, and he faced financial difficulties after losing money in a failed real estate venture. Jenner also battled prostate cancer in secret for several years before dying of leukemia in 2016 at age 75. He passed away quietly with few public tributes. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at under $300,000, much of it lost to medical expenses and debts. Friends described him as lonely and increasingly reclusive, haunted by a career that never quite reached its promise and a family life that drifted out of his grasp. Jeffrey Allen Chandler, who briefly appeared as Toller, the jittery and morally ambiguous forger in Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, remains a mysterious figure both on and off-screen. His performance, though brief, left a mark. His depiction of desperation and duplicity in the episode, In the Pale Moonlight, was chilling. Yet very little is known about Chandler's life outside of this role. He disappeared from Hollywood shortly after his appearance, reportedly struggling with addiction and mental health issues. Some insiders suggest that he lived for years off the grid in rural Oregon, after suffering a breakdown in the early 2000s. He was once married to a woman named Sharon Miles, but the marriage dissolved after only 3 years, allegedly due to Chandler's instability and erratic behavior. There are no known children, and former colleagues reported he cut off nearly all contact. In 2013, there were unverified reports of Chandler being homeless and hospitalized under a pseudonym. His current status is unknown, and he has not acted in over 2 decades. If still alive, he would be in his late 60s or early 70s. His financial condition is presumed dire, with no public record of assets or residence. Frank Langella, who portrayed the cunning and manipulative Jero Essa on Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, brought gravitas and chilling intensity to the role of the Bajoran politician who nearly destroyed his own world for power. Langella was 55 when he took on the role, opting to remain uncredited to focus on the character, not the fame. Off-screen, Langella's life was a patchwork of professional brilliance and emotional solitude. He was married to Ruth Weil for nearly 2 decades, and the couple had 2 children, Frank 3 and Sarah. However, Langella's career obsession and frequent affairs, including a high-profile relationship with Whoopi Goldberg, strained the family to the breaking point. The marriage ended bitterly in divorce. He struggled with profound loneliness, especially after his children became estranged following a public scandal involving alleged inappropriate behavior on set late in his career. Though lauded for his powerful stage work, Langella battled depression and a deep sense of regret, especially after being replaced in a major Netflix role in 2022 due to misconduct allegations. He died in 2022 at age 84 of heart failure, alone in his New York apartment. His net worth at the time was estimated around $5 million, much of which went into a trust fund for his grandchildren, though his legacy was clouded by the controversies of his final years. Which character from Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, TV series 1993 to 1999, holds a special place in your heart? How does it make you feel knowing that some of the beloved cast members are no longer with us? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments below. If you've been enjoying this content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching.